Welcome, everyone, to our first public Alation Brief. These are our short practical sharing sessions that have been hosted by the Alation Community for a couple of years, and we're happy to bring it to a more public audience. These Alation Briefs are presented by a wide variety of subject matter experts. All of the sessions are recorded. And during the session, we encourage you to ask your questions about the content being presented using the Q&A feature in the right of the screen. And you can reach the other attendees in the chat window. Feel free to chat with the other attendees as you can. We leave time to get to all of your questions after the presentation is concluded, and the recording, when it's available, will be either on the Resource Center on alation.com for non-customers, and for our customers, you'll be able to find the recording, as always, in our community on the Alation Briefs repository. So with that, I'm going to hand off to our presenter to introduce himself, and we'll get started.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks everyone for joining today for this Alation Brief, which is data products for a meshy world and how to deliver business value from it. And so my name is Michael Meyer. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at Alation. Prior to joining Alation, I actually was a customer, and I have over 30 years experience in the data world, including being a data engineer, BI engineer, and data architect. And so to get this started, I always like to kind of start off with an analogy. And so I remember as a young boy actually going to my grandmother's house every Sunday. And as you'd walk into the kitchen, you'd always see these made from scratch, delicious looking cakes on the table. And so grandma one Sunday started to describe, she says, well, as a younger person, I actually worked at this French bakery. And she said we would take the cakes and put them into these beautiful boxes, and then put them out in front of the display window in the bakery so that as people would walk by, they would be enticed to come in and purchase a cake. And so keep this in mind. And today, as we're going through the session, a lot about data products is actually the packaging and marketing that goes into it so that you can make sure that people are able to get to these products in your organization and consume them. So when we take this a little bit further, want to go in and say that if you think about on that cake, the ingredients, you have all of those things together. If you think about them in terms of data, this is really your data assets, such as things like tables and views and other things. So as you start to take them from out of the sources systems and start to work with them, it's that preparation phase, just like the cake batter. These are your data pipelines. And so the data is now being potentially transformed and getting ready to be into its final state, which is that final data product. And so from here, once you actually have created one, you want to make sure that it's easy for your consumers to find and to actually consume. And so from a formal definition perspective, it's really is a data product is the packaging of data assets to solve a particular business need that is discoverable, understandable, and trustworthy. So examples include data sets, dashboards, reports, and APIs. And so I know you're thinking, like, so what? We've been doing this for years. What's the difference? And so as we get into the further into this today, you'll see it's a lot more about the people side and process more than technology. And so, if it wasn't for the fact that today still most data initiatives are failing. This Gartner survey back in 2023 from CDOs shows that 69% of data analytical leaders are still struggling to deliver measurable ROI. So there needs to be a different way. So the things that's causing the problems is people can't find and discover data. If they do find it, they're having a hard time trusting it. And from those that are trying to build out these solutions, it's typically having problems being misaligned to the business and lacking true business domain knowledge in order to make a significant impact in what they're delivering. So really, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Over the years, it has been thought that centralized data teams was the most productive way to actually create data for their consumers. And so I can attest to this. I've been on several centralized teams. And so one of the things that I've found out is as an example is I worked for an organization and we did agile. So we had like 60-day epics to be able to turn things out. And so inside of that 60-day epic, our first part was we were given 5 days for data discovery. And so in an organization that doesn't have a data intelligence system or data catalog like Alation, this is very, very difficult. And so what happened would be is those 5 days would turn into 10, 20 days. And so now all of a sudden, data discovery took a third of my time in order of the big project I was working on. So now either I have to try to extend it, which of course management says, oh, no, we can't extend it. So we ended up having to cut scope. And so when you think about it in terms of that bakery, it would be like telling your consumers that are waiting in line, you're going to have to wait in line for 3 days if you want that cake. Or maybe instead, I can give you a really, really thin slice to kind of tide you over. And so what you end up having is hangry customers. And I can attest that it's hard from people too producing this. You feel bad that you're not able to deliver fast enough, in the fact that you're leaving the business users in a dilemma of how to make critical decisions. So what if you actually started to take those engineers and that centralized data team and start to break them out and align them more towards the domains that the domains of the organization, whether business or data domains. And so when you think about this, I always think about in terms of agile programming for applications has done this for years. We've had product managers, we've had self-sufficient teams out there being able to be able to deliver. So why not do this with data? So having the notion of having data product owners, and then having those engineers, so that being able to have the situation to where with this change of people organization to be able to deliver sooner. And so when we think about this more, then so taking a look in terms of data products, it came about roughly around 2018, I think it was, when Zhamak Dehghani, who was at ThoughtWorks at the time, was also noticing and listening to all of the people inside of the data community saying that experiencing these problems. And so she wrote the book on data mesh and outlined 4 key principles aligned to data ownership, data as a product, or domain ownership, data as a product, self-serve data infrastructure, and federated data governance. Now, in addition to this, when you started to really break out data product, she listed out the critical areas that makes a data product. And the first area is it needs to be valuable. It needs to be valuable on its own. And also, it needs to be valuable if it's combined with something else. But so then the question is how do I know if it's valuable or not? So one of the things is, like inside of the Alation and Data Intelligence Platform, we have conversations so that the consumers can talk directly with the data product owner and give them feedback on that, so that they can either enhance that current product or actually create new ones based upon it. The other thing to understand value is being able to see the usage metrics of those given products in your portfolio as a data product owner. So with Alation Analytics, we can actually track those and make that easier for those data product owners. The second area then is around being discoverable. And so when we think about from a consumer's perspective, again, like the bakery, it was pretty easy to walk by that window and see those cakes. How do you make it as simple as that inside your organizations for people to find data? So you need a platform to where that you can get them into your marketplace and make it searchable to find these products, and even go to the extent of guiding them to product registries. And those product registries then can be organized by things such as domains, business units, departments, or other categories. But it makes it really easy for the end users to be able to find the products that they're looking for. The next area is around being addressable. And so not only from a UI perspective, but also from an API perspective. So when you think about automating, things like the deployment of these data products and also updating them, say, for example, I want to update a data product and I have a timestamp to show when the last refresh date time was. So having the ability to have data products that are that have their own unique identifier so that you can address them also programmatically. The next area is around being understandable. So it's critical to really provide really good descriptions of what the data product's about. In addition to that, you want to be able to have such facets such as including examples of the data, showing the underlying data assets that make up this particular data product. And the last thing that's really probably the most important, if there are any limitations on that product so that people can understand if it's fit for their purpose or not. Next area is around trustworthy. And one of the things that data products and the reason they came about is really to help increase that trustworthiness of data solutions. And so when you think about the scenario of as you're starting to work with the data from, it's close to its source perspective to its final destination as a data product, you need to incorporate data quality throughout. And so with Alation, we have our open data quality framework, and we work with providers that through data observability and data quality that can actually then help ensure that quality exists from the source all the way to its final destination as a data product. In addition to that, it's important at the point of consumption too to understand those, the current state of that data. And we have even higher level, what we call trust flags that can show you quickly kind of those stoplights, red, yellow, green, and gives you an indication of the current state of the product. So you can decide, for example, you may click on one that's red and it says, okay, please do not use today. We're currently experiencing quality problems. We're going to actually get it fixed and then we'll let you know. And then finally, it's about having transparency of objectives, such as the frequency of change. What's the accuracy, completeness of this data? And, for some users, data analysts, and I'm going to see even business users, sometimes you need to really understand, where did this data come from? How did it travel to get to where it's at? And so even for our business users, we have business lineage so the business users can see that and help them trust the data more. The last note on this is I would say is you need to think about too is being able to apply federated policies so that can actually also help increase trustworthiness. And so the next area is around being natively accessible. And so what do we mean by that? And so at the point of discovery of a particular product, you want to be able to access it. So once you've been given security access to it, such as if it's a dashboard report, being able to click on it and launch it into whatever platform that you're using. If it's a data set inside of Alation, you can use our query tool called Compose to quickly start to analyze it, or in addition to that, for business users, our Compose query forms. Lastly, if you're a financial ops, a credit analyst, a marketing ops type of person, and you spend a lot of your time in spreadsheets such as Excel or let's say Google Sheets, you're able to use our Alation connected sheets to actually analyze that particular data set at the point of consumption so that you can get to quicker insights. And then lastly, it's about being secure. And so we always want to make sure that all security controls are enforced at that data access perspective, but also having those policies applied for that classification of sensitive data. Now, this is important for your internal products, but if you start to think about taking your products to an external data marketplace, there's a whole additional level of security you really need to go through and plan. And so in addition to data mesh, you may have been hearing things pop up in terms of data fabric. And so how do these two things kind of correspond, or do they work together? And I would say absolutely that they work together. So when I think of data fabric, first of all, I think about having a data intelligence platform like Alation that can centralize all that active metadata. And so now I have an understanding of where all the pieces of my data resides throughout my organization. I can also use that active metadata to do things such as help to create automation of coding and actually into my pipeline. So being able to do things that can actually speed up the development phase. Now, when we take all three of these kind of ideas combined, what we have then is really that data products are the outcome. It's that business outcome that you're looking for. Data mesh is the approach that you're going to apply. And data fabric is really the infrastructure that can be behind everything. So now, what if we were to treat data like a product? So as we've talked about, if I start to put data product owners into place and start to have more open collaboration with those owners, engineers, and the business, we can align to those business initiatives and really start to deliver upon what's the most important things. No more days of IT going off and building a solution and thinking if I build it, they will come. In addition, from a consumer's perspective, now they're able to find things faster and they can actually trust that data. And in addition, it's about being able to get, faster time to insight. They're able to get to the products and actually get the results they need in order to make data-driven decisions. And so with that, I think we're going to now change over quickly and let's go into a quick demo. And so in today's example, what we have is we have my fictitious company, Juno TV streaming company. And so one of the things in terms of organizing the marketplace is that you want to be able to actually, like I say, be able to quickly get people to the product so that they can see where they're at. Now, beyond just, and again, this goes beyond just having a search mechanism, right? Because almost every product, you can still search for your data products through our search mechanism, but we want a more guided experience so that consumers can find things quickly. So as we start to look at in terms of our different marketplaces, you can see that we've actually built out ones for our customer data, finance data, and marketing data. Great. So now as I start to go back and look at those, let me zoom back out, maybe. And I'm going to take a quick look at my finance product, some of the things that I have there. So in terms of the registry, it's really that listing of all the various products you have. And so I'm going to go ahead and look at this particular one here. And so when you start to look, as we talked about before, the first important thing is really having that description that gives the user an understanding of what's contained inside this product. And from there, then it's about, showing in addition, things like what's the purpose? What's the intended purpose of the product? Now you can go in all different directions with this. This can be some basic text, or this could be even broken out by the different use cases and different personas and things like that. And then in addition, so once a user has found it and they understand it, they know the purpose, they need to be able to access requests. And so being able to go into today, like what we support inside of Alation is we have the ability to link out to your systems like Jira, ServiceNow, if you want to use that. Also, we have an internal way of actually, which I'll show in a second, creating a conversation so that the access owner can get that and actually do it that way. All right. So now, as we said, if you're looking for access and you want to do it internally within Alation through this, what you can do is you can actually start up a simple conversation so that the access owner gets that sent to them as a notification. And then it also shows up in their inbox inside of Alation so that they can take care of those requests. Beyond that, then it's important to know that with each of the particular with the data products, everything is customizable from the additional business metadata that you want to track. And so this is it can be different templates by domain. It could be different templates by product. Let's say you want to treat a dashboard different than a data set, as an example. And so one of the things here is we have things organized by such things as who are the key people and teams, such as access owners, business owners, maybe stewards of the information. What are the data product details? And those would be things, let's double click on that, such as what's the delivery mechanism? Is it a dashboard? Is it a report? Is it a data set? What's the data fresh frequency? Every 10 minutes, hourly, weekly, daily? And then lastly, what's the life cycle stage that this is currently in? And so basically being able to say, is this in requirements? Is it being developed? Is it in production? So all of those things, very important. And then the last area, so that you understand from a consumption perspective too, is what is the security around this? So is this, internal use only? Is it private? Does it contain PII data or not? So again, this helps the consumer with the being able to handle this particular product correctly. Okay, so a few things there. So now let's go back to and kind of look at a couple more examples. And so when we look at things like we talked about earlier, it's important to be able to, at the point of discovery, that you can understand, such as a dashboard report, to be able to actually use it. So inside of Alation, as you show the preview of particular, of this dashboard, you're actually able to go in then and then click on the link that will take you directly to that particular item inside of, let's say this is a Tableau dashboard, it'll take you directly to Tableau so that you can start utilizing that particular product. All right. So also what's important we talked about is understanding what are those underlying associated data assets. So being able to see a list of the assets that were actually used to make up this product. One last example. So when we look at this particular one, and let me kind of zoom in again on this, we see that this is a data set with streaming activities. And so also it says that there's some, there's some address information and some other things. So you need to treat this accordingly to our personal protection policy. So from within inside Alation, the consumer can quickly click on this policy, read it, understand it as to what's going on. And so here we see actually then as we go down is basically the definition of that data set that we're consuming. And then lastly, when we talk about, again, the product's purpose, it's intended for machine learning and advanced analytical. But here's where we start to put in the limitations and start to describe this to somebody. This data set is by no means intended to replace the dimensional model in the enterprise data warehouse. So that's good to understand. So there are limitations. If I need to go outside, if I need additional dimensions to this information, I would probably need then to go ahead and go back to my enterprise data warehouse. And lastly, it's about being able, as we talked about earlier, for a consumer to actually come in and say and have suggestions and feedback on this particular product. And so when you look at it here, this particular user says, let's from those viewed duration minutes, and if we look at it in the actual definition, I think it's a whole number. So would it be possible to get this value more granular? 1 to 2 decimal places would be very helpful. So again, it's having that feedback that is tied directly to the product and stays with the product.